Hey, everybody. How are you on this wonderful Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, depending on where you are? I'm Artie, and yeah, I'm here to bring you a wonderful interview with an old friend of mine. His name is Frank Turner, and I'm going to get him on right now. We're just going to go for it. You're so timely, Frank. Oh, please work. Please.
Is it
Yes.
It's
Yes.
working.
Our
Look
first,
at that.
our
Hello,
first
mate.
international version. I can't believe it, man. It's like
I know.
fucking...
Look at this. It's like the internet goes everywhere.
Who the fuck knew, man? Who knew? Who knew? It's so funny.
It's crazy. It's almost like the word the inter part of the word has something to do with something. Who knew?
Yeah. Who knew? Well, besides coronavirus, yeah.
It's coming through the internet, man. Do you know about the 5G thing that's happening over here? I don't know if it's happening where you are.
Yeah, they're burning down towers over here.
Over here too. It is literally the most idiotic thing I've ever seen in my life. There are people, and the dumbest part is there's people using their 4G devices to complain about 5G devices, and they use their 3G devices to complain about 4G devices like 5 years ago, whenever it was.
Isn't that the way
and
it goes,
it is just profoundly dumb. I can't wait to complain about 6G on my 5G phone. I'm going to get ahead of the curve and start complaining about 6G already.
Oh, what if they're going to just
man?
They're gonna have to roll out a different name for it. They're not
it's
gonna
be like Windows.
Anything G. Oh, how you doing, man? You at home? You sitting at home?
I'm at home. Yeah, I mean legally so. I mean, yeah, I'm in North London in my pad, and I've been here for quite some time now. And you know, I was saying this to my friend, you know, Benny from Gaslight, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I've lost him.
Hi,
everybody.
There we go.
Oh, you're still here. Do you know Benny from Gaslight, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I was chatting to Benny the other day, and we agreed that like right now it's like the first couple of days after tour, forever. Do you know what I mean?
I get so depressed when I get off tour. I'm just like, everything goes down.
See,
so I guess
I'm not sure I get depressed so much these days. I just kind of don't want to leave the house. I just want to stay inside and cook food and watch Netflix.
Yeah.
And you know, and incidentally, as I'm sure you know, like historically, that can be quite difficult in a relationship because you get home from being around the world and your partner goes, "Cool, let's go out and do say," and you go, "That is the last thing
I want to do.
I want to stare at my television in my pants."
You know,
not fucking move.
I've had to work for years, like touring. So it was only a couple of years that I had that opportunity to like chill. It would literally get home. Okay, I got to work tomorrow. You know, like shit. Hope the plane is late.
Sure.
I got to be at work at 6. You know,
well,
so it was always like weird.
I do remember that on the tour that we did, and we're getting nostalgic already. On the tour that we did with Million Dead, I don't know if you've still got this somewhere, but the laminate we have for that tour had all of the dates, and then on the day after the last show, it said "Get a Job" was listed as the thing after because it was our farewell tour. And I've still got a copy of it downstairs. It's fucking amazing. It's like, you know, London Underworld, Southampton Joiners, and then the next day it just says "Get a Job."
Oh yeah, I remember Joiners was the last show, and that was depressing. I remember going into a bar that night. Like me and Stafford fucked off to go to a bar, and we walk in this place, and it was the brightest bar I'd ever been in. The woman behind the bar was about 80 years old. She was wearing a full tracksuit. It was like, and Stafford just turns to me, and he goes, "Don't open your fucking mouth." I'm like, why? He's like, "I don't want any of these people to know you're American." I was like, "Fuck you, dude." Whatever.
Amazing. The thing I remember about that show in particular. So for people watching, this was the farewell tour.
Yeah, we should probably do a little bit of
a tour booked already. Right, contextualize. Yeah. We had a tour booked already, and then we decided to break up as a band because we'd all stopped getting along with each other. And then we had Artie's band, Gay for Johnny Depp, were the support band on the tour. And for us, it was really weird. We were basically on non-speaking terms with each other, pretty much.
It was so uncomfortable
by that point, or at least
so uncomfortable.
Yeah. So,
and even going further than that, the guitar player and the bass player were dating, and they had broken up, if I remember correctly. Were they broken up yet, or were they still together and they just hated
along
you
those
and Ben?
lines? I mean, you know what? I fucking love you, man. That is a subject that I've spent the last 15 years like being circumspect about in terms of interviews and stuff like that. And you're fucking straight in there, man. I mean, Who gives a shit?
Sorry, buddy. It's only worse from here.
There was a romantic complication in the band, and I can't really remember. They were not getting along with each other, and it was making the rest of us not get along with anybody, and it was fucked. But what I remember was that despite that, and you might correct me on this, but my memory is that almost because of the tension in the band, we played like fucking dynamite on that tour.
Fucking amazing. Amazing.
There was so much rage in the band already, you know, that it came out on stage, and it was great until up to and including the penultimate show, which was at the Underworld in London, which we fucking, you know, by the way, that show still holds the attendance record for the Underworld, because John, who ran the Underworld, he let us sell it to capacity and then put a guest list on top, and then I spent the whole evening running kids in through the back door because it was our last ever London show. So fucking,
I think if I remember correctly, there was like 650 or 700 people in the building. It was fucking insane.
I think that's...
Damn it. It's going to come back. I promise. No. No. Fuck.
Hello, I'm back. Listen, man,
cool.
I'm going to move to nearer my router because I don't know if my computer's an asshole.
Yeah. You were saying, like, there was like that Underworld show. That Underworld show was so intense. It was like, and for us too, like we, you know, the funny story from that tour was I got punched at the first show in Exeter. By a kid in the crowd, and wound up in the hospital. And I had to get stitches. I was in a fucking hospital at 3 o'clock in the morning. And,
is it not true that you were next to the dude who you'd sort of been, who'd punched you in the hospital?
No. I didn't. No, that's not true at all.
Oh, okay.
No, it was actually.
That's the best. I've told so many people that story.
Oh yeah, no, he was not next to me in the hospital. But he did say that I grabbed his balls, which I don't remember doing. But if I did, but another funny story about that was that this is another fucking Stafford moment where he's like, Shepard, don't tell them you've been fucking drinking. I was like, why? He's like, they won't even see you. They hate people who are drinking on the weekends. They don't want to deal with you. I'm like, all right, man. I'm not even
sure that's especially true, to be honest. By the way, and again, to contextualize people, so Rich Stafford was a guy, he was Million Dead sound guy. He went off, he did Instruction with you guys for a while, did he not?
Yeah, for years. Instruction was before that.
Oh, okay.
And Million Dead was no, he toured with you guys, and I guess he did sound for Gay for Johnny Depp on that tour too, but I can't remember. It's fucking crazy. It was Looney Tunes.
A strange old time. Yeah. Well, so what I was going to say was, so we held it together as a band every day because there was another show the next day. You know what I mean? And that sort of put the inevitable. When it finally came to the last show in Southampton, we just fucking fell apart as a band. I remember us sucking that night. And it's because there was nothing else to come. And I remember at the end of the night, we packed the van and I just kind of went, cool, and walked off. And that's the last time that I saw some members of that band for about a decade.
Wow. I mean, you always stayed friends with Ben though, right?
Well, me and Ben kind of grew up together, and indeed are now in Mongolhood together. So, you know, we and to be honest, so here's the thing, with part of the reason we formed Mongolhood is because when you grow up with somebody and you're in a band with somebody, I was in a band with them from when I was 10 years old to when I was 23 years old, like continuously. And then Million Dead split up, and then I didn't see him for about a year and a half, if not longer. And I couldn't figure out why. I was like, why have I not seen Ben? We didn't fall out or anything. And the reason is that I never got into the habit of making social plans with him because we were in a fucking band. So we saw each other all the time. And then in that instance, it was just like, so suddenly it was like, fuck, if I want to see Ben, I'm going to have to like put some effort into this. I'm going to have to like call him and arrange to meet, you know, and think of a place to meet and something to do and all this sort of shit. So after a while, it was like, well, I want to do a band again with Ben, partly because I wanted to play with him, but kind of because it's just a good reason to hang out.
Yeah, I mean, you get to a point in your life where that's kind of the reason you want to be in a band, is because you want to hang out with people that you like, and you know, everybody gets busy, and it's like, fuck it, man, I can't see it. And also, it's like, it's something you guys have in common for a very long time. So, you know, it's like, you know, friends have different things in common, and that's the reason they become friends. So, but it's cool he's playing. I mean, didn't he go to school for drumming after?
Yeah, we were at school together. He went to like drumming school for a while, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember the first time I saw him play, because he played in a band called Arm Response Unit for a while, who were like a grind thrash kind of thing. And the first time I saw Arm Response Unit play, which is after he'd been to drum school for like more than a year, I was furious because I was like, you were never this fucking good when you were a Million Dead. Like, god damn it, man. Like, when did you get this good? Like, and he was just so much tighter and faster, and he had all these chops he didn't used to have. He's a fucking amazing drummer. But then here's the thing. The reason that I didn't ask Ben to be my drummer as a solo artist is because we know each other too well. I was at a point in my life where I wanted to do something. I wanted to take a radical left turn in my own music. I wanted to make sounds I didn't know how to make. And I just knew me and Ben finish each other's sentences musically in a way that is irritating for other people. I mean, Matt in Mongrel Horde has a bit of a tough time with it. And I just wanted to not do what I always do. And I knew that if Ben was in the band, I would just fucking do what I always do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we had a good old heart-to-heart about 8 years ago. But so I played with Nigel instead.
So yeah, this is a good segue back to sort of the beginning. What's interesting about you and as an American, I can say this, and don't be mad at me, but reading your Wikipedia page is like reading an episode of Downton Abbey. It's like, you were born in Bahrain, and your mom was a baroness, and like all this like crazy shit.
My mom was not a baroness.
Well, something like that. She was something. She's Lady Frank Turner, right? I don't know.
She's not. I mean, the first thing I would say is beware of what you read on Wikipedia. My mom's father was a priest. Towards the end of his life, he got quite high up the hierarchy of priesthood and became like a bishop. But that was towards the end of his life. Right. But my mom grew up in like vicarages and shit, and she's very religious as a result.
So one of the really interesting things about you is you're the only person I've ever met who went to Eton. And unless unless I could have met the members of Genesis, which I haven't, I wish I could. But it's
how did they go to Eton? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, in the '60s. And
what?
Eton, and for people in America, Eton's like is very like you graduated with Prince William, or you went to school at the same time, right?
We were in the same.
You were in the same class
at the same time.
Yeah. So like, what's interesting about that is like, at what point did you find punk rock and hardcore and like all of that stuff? Because I imagine being at Eton is pretty intense.
Yeah, the second that I got there, because no, seriously, because the thing is, I didn't go to schools like that before then, and my parents put me up for a scholarship exam when I was 12, and my memory of it is that I didn't really sort of get what was going on. It was just like, go here and do these exams, and I was like, and I got the scholarship, which, I mean, I don't want to bang on about it. I'm reasonably proud of. I was certainly smarter at age 12 comparatively than I've ever been since. You know what I mean? And so I got the scholarship exam. And again, my memory of it is not really sort of gathering quite what was going on with this. And my mum and dad were stoked because my dad especially like wants to be the kind of person who has kids who go to a school like Eton College, but didn't have the money to send me there. And if you get a scholarship, you don't have to pay. So he was fucking stoked. And I then got sent off to the school, and you sort of get a uniform and shit, and the uniform's shitty and medieval and all the rest of it. And I was being a bit like, oh, I don't know about this. And then I got there, and my enduring memory is that because it's a boarding school, right? My parents dropped me off, and then they left, and I went, cool, wait, where are you guys going? And why am I not going with you? Like, and then suddenly it was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to see you guys for like weeks and weeks and weeks. And I guess I had my head in the fucking clouds or whatever, but it just never crossed my mind that this was actually what was going to happen. So it was a kind of a massive culture shock, both in terms of like, but also because socially it was just hugely alien to me. My friends when I was growing up prior to that were just the kids I went to school with, and we played in, I was kind of in like metal and grunge bands prior to that. I mean, pretty young here, 12, 13 years old, but I was playing like Nirvana covers with my friends and stuff in bands. And like, I didn't fucking know who went to Eton College and anybody like that. And then suddenly there I am. And almost instantaneously, I mean, I don't want to over egg this or like play the martyr card here or anything, or indeed insult my parents, because as much as we have very, very different worldviews, I do believe that they were trying to do the best as they saw it for me as a kid. But nevertheless, like I was very, very like depressed and upset and homesick and angry and like
hence punk rock.
Hated it. Like hated it.
That's a perfect formula.
But then, yeah, and almost at this moment in time, just when I was about 13, so I was really into Nirvana because it was 1993, 94, when I was like, in 1994, I was 12 years old, so I was like fucking all about Nirvana. And then Kurt Cobain talked about punk quite a lot. He always refers to himself as a punk. He'd had like punk written on one of his guitars, I think I'm right in saying, and all this kind of shit. So, and when I was a kid, me and my mate Chris, who I was in a band with, we only knew one kind of person who knew about music, which was his uncle. And his uncle did two incredible things for me. The first thing, he told me a thing that is still fucking true, right? Check this out. Because his uncle lived on the other side of town from where we rehearsed on the weekends, and we'd walk over to his house and pick up his amp. He lent us his guitar amp to practice with. Chris had a drum kit, and it was like the heaviest fucking valve amp, and we'd carry it across town. And one day when we were picking it up, we did this for a couple of years, his uncle said to me, you know when you've made it in the music industry, when you stop carrying heavy shit around. And I was like, oh my God. And that, to this day, that remains the best yardstick of what, like, making it.
In all honesty, like you were still, so you correct me if I'm wrong, because I remember I've shared so many weird stories with things with you. Like, maybe I'll just go to the first one, because I believe you came over and did the Revival tour, right? And that was in 2009, and that was a tour that was put together by Chuck Reagan from Hot Water Music, and Tim Barry from Avail, blah blah blah,
and Ben Nichols.
Yeah, I saw you play Gramercy, and that was the first time you came over as a solo artist, correct?
No, that was the second time, and actually, so you're now about to discover my weirdly nerdy memory for dates and all this kind of thing. That was actually 2008, and it was the first Revival tour. I did 4 shows on the East Coast. I had been over before, and I don't know if you remember this. I opened for a band of yours in New York about a year previous to that, and it was fuck. And you guys got me on the bill because I had a gig that night at like the Crayon House or something, like some sort of folk venue or something that I was really excited about playing, and you guys were like, there's not going to be a single person there. And on the same night, I like played a 20-minute set opening for you guys in a bar to about 100 people or whatever.
Do you remember? Was it in Brooklyn?
Town.
Fuck, man, I don't remember this at all. That's crazy. I remember you playing.
So I played like 20 minutes. Well, yeah, that was later. That was later. But so I played like 20 minutes with you guys, which was my first New York show. And then I got a cab across town to this folk place. And the thing is, the guys at the folk place that sort of sold me on this whole, like, I'm not sure it was in Greenwich Village, but they told me that the whole vibe was it was this great folk place where every fucker is played and all this kind of thing. And I'd been taken in by it, and you guys were like, dude. So, and when I went over there, I played a show that night. Check this out. This is a true story. I played for 3 people, right? Those 3 people were my friend Rachel, her mate who she was traveling with, and a random other woman who was in the bar. And I ditched the PA and just went and sat at a round table with them and just played songs. And the woman who was there was the editor of Playgirl magazine, which is why to this day I get good reviews in Playgirl magazine.
Welcome to New York, man. That shit happens only in New York. I swear to God.
I know, totally. And I mean, the thing is, like, every now and again, somebody would be like, dude, I saw your album was, like, reviewed in Playgirl magazine. Like, is there a story here? And I'm like, yes, actually there is, and it doesn't involve me getting my dick out. So, you know.
Come on, dude. Remember Pete Steele? Typo Negative? That shit made him huge, and he was.
I do. Huge. I fucking do, yeah.
I actually did a tour.
Well, apparently so. I never saw the photos.
Oh, I did. I did a tour immediately after that issue came out, where I was the roadie for Shelter, and the tour was Shelter. It was Typo Negative, Christian Death, and Shelter. And it was the fucking weirdest tour ever. And so Typo had this, you know, it was just like they'd have a line of women outside their tour bus, and they would let them in for 15 minutes at a time. I swear to God, Pete's he was the nicest guy though, super nice. That big thing, yeah. Anyway, so. Yeah, it was funny because you just reminded me of when you played Matchless, and that was fucking hysterical.
That was wild.
So to preface this one, and anybody who doesn't know what Matchless is, it was a divey bar that I worked at in Greenpoint, not far from where St. Vitus is. And it had this little tiny live room. And we were like, nobody who worked there, none of my boss, nobody knew who you were. And you were in town doing a record with Alex Newport called Poetry the Deed, right? That was the record you were doing? Yes.
And in fact, it was the day that I'm pretty sure it was the day that I finished doing the vocals for Poetry is when I came and played Matchless, because I'd been saving my voice up to that point. And then I was like, fuck it, I want to do a show.
That shit was so funny though. It was like, nobody knew what the fuck to expect. The place that was the most crowded I'd ever seen it. It was like,
it was cool.
People were standing on top of each other like, what the fuck? There's all these like emo kids I knew from years ago. Like, wow, you like Frank? That's awesome. But that was really like I don't know how you feel about your career, but I look at that very much so as a big jump in your career. That album, like, definitely put you, especially in this country.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was because the thing is, that's the first record I put out on Epitaph. So it was the first record of mine that was actually like released in the US at the time that it was released anywhere else in the world. Because like, you know, people could get Love Ire sort of on import or like through distros and all that kind of thing. But like, after Love Iron Song, I did a deal with Brett at Epitaph, who is a wonderful, saintly human who I love very much. So that was the first record I did that had an international release. Before then, it was just the UK, and then, oh, maybe we can ship them to you if you live somewhere else. So yeah, Poetry the Deed, and then also on top of that, that was when we did this year where we did like 3 months on tour with Flogging Molly, and then 3 months on tour with Social D, and then like summer shows as well. And we were just in the States a fuck of a lot of the time, which was amazing for us. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it was sort of dream come true territory. You know what I mean? It was just like, we're in a fucking Econoline in America. We're in Ohio. You know what I mean? Like, we're in Arizona, all these places we'd never been before. You know, and also that thing that the best, there's a real sweet spot in a career when you're like, you're a support act and you're fucking nailing it, and you know you are. And it's like, particularly on the Social Detour, because I have nothing but respect for Social D. I grew up with their music and they've been enormously kind to me, so I'm going to try and phrase this in the right way. But like, I think they quite often before us hadn't had all that exciting support bands, so expectations were low. And Social D are older dudes as well. They're quite sort of, they're powerful live, but they're quite sort of, they stay where they are. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we came on that Social D tour, and just every night, we only had to play for half an hour. Do you know what I mean? And so that's the other thing. You've got 2 hours worth of energy to pack into half an hour. And we're all like in our 20s, you know, and Social D are in their 50s or whatever. And so we just came on every night and just kicked the living shit out of the audience as hard as we could, not least because everybody had told us, oh, Social D crowds are hard, man, they're gonna fuck you up, they're gonna hate you, they're gonna ignore you, they're gonna flip you off, they're gonna, do you know what I mean? And so we were like, do you know what I mean, like, come on, let's do this. And we did so well out of that tour, just because I'm not saying that we were better than Social D, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we exceeded the expectations of the audience in a way that was really satisfying.
I'll admit I can't stand Social D, and I would say that the reason somebody told you that is because their crowd's not that intelligent, and the lyrics you write are really, really fucking intelligent. But hey, man,
I don't know, man. We made a lot of friends on that tour, man. They made a lot of, and you know what, man? Like White Light, White Heat, White Trash was one of my signpost records when I was a kid.
That's awesome, man. Killer. Yeah. So what you know, coming out of Million Dead, when I saw you on the Revival tour, and even before that, when I, you know, saw what you were doing, you were still traveling on a train, right? For a lot of
I mean, pretty much. Well, so actually on that Revival run, I was on the Revival bus that they'd set up for that tour. But prior to that, I'd just done like 2 months with a band called Fake Problems from Naples, Florida, where we drove every inch of the 10. And when I say every inch, I mean every inch. Our tour went from one end to the other. So we made a point of driving down to the ocean at each end to say that we'd driven every inch of the fucking 10. And we were averaging like 15 people a night on that tour, like on a good night. It was fucking miserable. Yeah. And then so I came off that and then flew to New York and got a train down to Asbury Park, and suddenly there was a tour bus, and then there was like a sold out venue and lots of people who cared, and it was just like, it was like a fucking you know, somebody dying of thirst coming across an oasis. It was like, oh my god, thank you. So yeah, but those 4 shows I did in Revival 2008 were like pretty life changing for me. Like we did the Asbury Lanes, we did the Gramercy in New York, We did a place in Hartford, Connecticut, and somewhere else that I can't now remember. But yeah, we did 4 shows, and it just fucking blew everything out of the water, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It was really interesting to see you with those guys in the same context. And it was like, at that time, I was very much like so intrigued by the idea of not having to tour with a band. You know, it's like, wait. So I could just like, I don't have to fucking lug around an amp. I could just have my guitar and walk in a room and play, and people are actually going to pay attention to me. And it's like, it's weird how that shift kind of happened all at once in that scene. It's like, you know, all of a sudden Tim Barry's playing like country songs and Chuck Reagan's like playing honky tonk songs, and you're just like, what the fuck's going on? Not that it was a stretch, because where those guys are from completely makes sense. You know, and
completely.
I felt like what you were doing is very English. You know, and when you listen to it, you could be like, oh, it's a little country for an English guy, and it's like, but when you put yourself next to Chuck or next to Tim, you know, it made sense. And suddenly I realized Billy Bragg, and I was like, oh, Billy Bragg, right. Totally. There you go. I mean, what was your main, besides the obvious of like a Springsteen, Nebraska, right? Like, what was your influence when you were like, you made that change? Like, were you listening to a lot of that stuff, or were you just taking older influence?
I think the thing was, so my first real passionate love was punk and hardcore. I mean, metal and then punk and hardcore. And I didn't have, like, my parents don't listen to modern music, and my older sister listens to some, but like, not the old stuff, you know what I mean? So I reached a point when I was about 23 when I could have listed you the entire Sick of It All discography, and I'd never heard a single song by Bob Dylan. And that's, you know, it was just weird. And I could tell you everything you want to know about the Cro-Mags and everything you want to know about, like, you know, fucking Catharsis or like Candiria or whatever, you know, and I'd never really heard any Springsteen. I never heard any Neil Young, and I never heard any Dylan. So I started getting into that world mainly through kind of country stuff. Actually, there's a record label called Loose Records who did a bunch of kind of compilation CDs that were kind of like, in the same way that like the Fat Records compilations got a lot of people into pop punk, the Loose Records comps got me into country, or at least old country. And you know, I just kind of, it was just fresh and interesting to me. The Johnny Cash American recordings was a big thing. The thing with Johnny Cash American recordings, incidentally, was it revealed to me that it's possible to be heavy without taking off your shirt and shaving your head and screaming at the front row and being covered in tattoos. You know what I mean? Like, some of the stuff on those records, I mean, Hurt's the obvious example, but a lot of it is heavy as fuck, man. And, you know, and it doesn't require kind of beefcakeness and a fucking PB 5150.
Yeah, but Johnny Cash's approach is heavy in general. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Just like there's a weight in his voice. There's a weight in his guitar playing, and yeah, that's interesting. Don't feel bad about the Dylan thing. That sort of, I know you don't at this point, but like it's the hardcore thing. Hardcore is it's a youth culture, so you should have been like that at that age, you know. But it's fucking sure. It's super interesting that was sort of the transition.
But then it's funny, and then it's funny as well, because like, what I was trying to do, particularly with like the first sort of 10, 15 songs that I wrote or whatever, is genuinely, I just wanted to sound like Harvest era Neil Young. That's all I was trying to do. And the sort of the punk ingredient, as it were, simply came out of the fact that that's how I play the guitar and that's how I sing, because I learned how to play the guitar and sing in punk bands. So like, when I play, to this day, when I play guitar, I play fucking hard. And when I sing fucking loud. And I learned to sing loud because I learned in like shitty practice rooms with, you know, the mic plugged into a guitar amp or whatever it was, you know what I mean? And so, you know, and even like really early doors when I was doing solo tours with just me and my guitar around the UK, and I'd end up on kind of folk nights, and I'd get up to sound check and I'd go la 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 la, and the sound guy would be like, what the fuck are you doing? And like, you know, it's like, we don't even need a microphone, you're gonna blow up my precious equipment, or whatever it be, you know. And I went through guitars pretty fucking hard back then as well. I used to just kick the fuck out of them, and I've kind of managed to restrain that bit, if for no other reason than economy at this point in my life. But like, you know, I just sort of, so it wasn't like I was trying to do punk folk or punk country. I was trying to do folk and country. I just didn't know how to do it in a way that wasn't punk. And arguably still don't really know how to do that.
Yeah, and it's, but I feel like lyrically, you danced around a lot of the stuff that would come out of a punk scene. And also the emo scene. There's you know, you got into the love song thing, but with a twist. And you know, some of your lines are, I was like, even in Million Dead, what fucking song was it? Fuck, Living the Dream. Fucking that song. That song. Fucking. First of all, the verse of that song sounds like the Smiths on guitar, which is like super weird. I remember we were touring with you, and I was like, I don't get this. One minute they sound like At the Drive-In, the next minute they sound like the Smiths. This is fucking crazy. But it was cool. It was all super catchy, you know. But like the way you like what they sing the songs to me back to them, sing my words back to me, about like all that stuff about the scene and all that shit. That was like really that struck a chord with me in such a huge way, and especially I've been touring since 1993, and you know, it's just like I was like, wow, man, like this guy, as young as he is, really fucking gets it, and it's like it was cool, man. I knew something cool was going to happen for you, and it's cool that you went on to play acoustic music because people could understand your lyrics better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, also the other thing was with Living the Dream is an interesting exception. Though with a lot of Million Dead, I was attempting to prove how literate and clever that I was by using the most obscurantist language and references that I could. We have songs about Polish communism and about, you know, fucking. Do you know what I mean? It was just like I was doing a history degree at the time, and I was trying to demonstrate to the world that I was well read. You know, I was incidentally the biggest influence on Million Dead lyrically was Van Pelt. I'm not sure if you're a Van Pelt fan.
Know them well. Yes.
But in fact, last night my wife and I were having some drinks and we were talking about Van Pelt, and I was like, the thing this band did for me is they blew the fucking doors off what you can write a song about. Do you know what I mean? And the kind of language you can use, because they've got songs about fucking the most insane out there shit, and not in a kind of like ooh spooky prog rock kind of way, but just like really intelligent. You know, there's a lap song about a fucking graph that has to do with domestic abuse. Do you know what I mean? And I was just like, wow, are we allowed to do this? You know,
I mean, there's no rules.
If anybody out there ever comes across the first. Yeah, if you cut the first Million Dead demo, the 4-track demo that we did, which I think is pretty awful actually, but like the vocals on that are so hilariously a Van Pelt ripoff, it's kind of embarrassing at this point. Well, you know what I mean? I listen back to it and I'm like,
I would say Fugazi talked about things as well that at least for me in the late '80s, I was like, what the fuck? What is this guy singing about? Styrofoam? Some sort of fucking metaphor? Who uses metaphors? I didn't know anything. I was like totally curious. But like, speaking of the Van Pelt,
what is metaphor?
Speaking of the Van Pelt, that kind of segues into a great story about you coming and playing St. Vitus for the first time, and because Mineral would be from a similar scene, and so one day, Frank, I go on the Facebook, and I'm like, you know, we had just announced these Mineral shows that they were doing some reunion shows at Vitus. They were going to do Irving Plaza, I think, too, and whatever. So I see Frank's like scored tickets to the show, blah blah blah. I was like, wait, it's like, and I immediately messaged him, and it was like, hey, why don't you just fucking play? And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, and it's going to be my friend's stag party too. So it turned into a fucking thing.
Yeah,
and what was weird about it?
So
you went on first, which was fucking hysterical.
Yeah, totally. But not only did I go on first, but like neither I nor anyone else in the room gave the remotest fuck about.
That's not true.
Set.
That's not fucking true.
Like,
that's not true. Well, you were only announced the day before, or even the day of. But what you did?
No, I know. And the show was already sold out. But I remember getting up on stage and saying, "Listen, I remember getting up on stage and saying, listen, I know none of you are here for me. I'm not really here for me either. Like, so let's just fucking do this and then we'll get to it." Because it was their first show. It was their second show in 20 years because they did one show in Austin as a warm-up and then just invite us and then they did the 2 nights. And when it got announced, my buddy Rob, who about a year after this story introduced me to my now wife, so he repaid the favor. Rob, his wedding was coming up, and I was his best man. And there's Mineral, and I had a stag do plan, and we did that. But like the Mineral shows got announced, and I was like, motherfucker! So and like instantly just like bought fucking plane tickets for me and him, and I was like, and he was like, you did what now? And I was like, I don't care what it is you think you're doing. You and I are fucking going to New York City to see Mineral play twice.
You were so fucking excited.
But it turned out to be 3 times because this Invited show wasn't announced when we booked the flights and everything. Right. And you called me and said, are you going to be in town the night before the first show? And I said, yeah, that's the day we land. And you went, cool, come and play. And I was just like,
that was such a simpatico night too, because like the whole thing beforehand, when we approached Minerals people about you playing, they came back almost immediately, like, we'll even give some of our money for him to come and play. That'd be great. And the shows were already sold out. So it was like ridiculous. And what you did that night though was fucking really funny, where you played your entire new album 3 months before it came out.
Oh yeah, which wasn't out yet. It was
and nobody knew the songs. And you were like, nobody knows who the fuck I am. So what's the difference? Of course, all the shows at St. Vitus get filmed in HD, not by me or any of the, whatever. And Unartig, I believe, did it. And what was it, like 2 weeks later, I get an email from you, and it's like, dude, my label's fucking freaking out because my entire new record is online. I was like, and I think my response was, why don't you call your label and tell them 1995 called and they want their business model back? And you were just like, dude, I know, but please, could you just have it taken down? I was like, I'll ask the guy. So I did ask him to take it down, and you know what? He never did. He never took it down.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, no.
The thing is, I had a bit of
you were great.
Coming on, I didn't sing all that well from memory.
Okay,
awesome.
So
listen, check this out. I have a killer Van Pelt story for you. Okay. Going back to Van Pelt. So I fucking adore Van Pelt. If anyone listening to this has never heard Van Pelt, their second album, The Sultans of Sentiment, is arguably the best indie guitar rock record ever made. And you should go and check it out immediately. They broke up before I'd even heard of them. I got into them. I fucking loved them. And then South by Southwest 2009, March 2009. Yeah, so I was there, and I had, had the stereotype of how South by is supposed to be and totally fucking isn't, where you go as an unknown and then you get discovered and the rest of it. I actually basically had the proper South by. I went down, I played like 9,000 shows, and by the end of it had agreed a deal with Epitaph. Do you know what I mean? And it was just like, fucking great. And then, so what happened was, and I was there for like 5 days, and I had shows on 4 days, and on the 5th day, I just had kind of a day off in Austin, and I woke up that morning, and I was like, right, I've got fucking nothing to do. I'm going to go and hang with my friends. I'm going to get shit-faced drunk because I basically signed a record deal last night, and I'm going to see who's on. And I was hanging out with the guys from Fake Problems again, and we were hanging out together at that time. And I looked through the listings, and it said, at like midday, it said Van Pelt. And I was like, typo, or two bands with the same name because they broke up ages ago and whatever the fuck. But my curiosity was piqued. I went down, and it was just this completely random one-off Van Pelt reunion show at South by Southwest, right?
Wasn't it with Hot Water Music?
Not there. That particular thing. They were literally, the time I saw them, they were literally on at like midday in like a in a. I
remember it being midday because I thought I was hanging out with Matt Ash and you, maybe Charlie, and
so. My memory of it was that, like, I was already kind of like, I had some breakfast beers, let's say that, shall we? And I went down, and basically, because I love this band so fucking much, I stood in the front row and basically kind of loudly and obnoxiously sang along and then just cried for most of the show, right? So that was that experience. This is the part of the story that's funny. You know Kate Hiltz, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, down Nasbury. So people who don't know, Kate is a wonderful human being. She among many other things. Yeah, and she puts up a lot of touring bands. So I used to stay at her house when we played in Nasbury Park all the time. She's an absolute fucking sweetheart, one of the best people I know. So I was staying in a house about a year after this. I was staying in a house on tour, and we were chatting away, and I mentioned Van Pelt, and she went, "Oh, those boys, they basically formed in my basement. They're from here. They used to rehearse downstairs. I basically managed them when they were a band." And I blew my mind. I was like, I never knew any of this. I didn't even know they were from the East Coast. I mean, as an English person getting into American bands, a lot of the time it's just American. You know what I mean? So I was like, holy shit, that's incredible. And then I said, I saw them a year ago at South by, and before I could say anything else, she went, "It was you."
Oh, the crying?
And I said, "What?" And she said, after the show, she called them and said, "How was the reunion show?" And they said it was okay, but there was this tall, drunk English motherfucker in the front row just crying and singing along badly, who kind of ruined the show for everybody. It's like,
wow, you were that guy.
No. I was that fucking guy.
The only other band I remember kids crying at their shows back in the day was Split Lip Chamberlain. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys. There used to be tons of kids just like, oh, we'd all just be standing there like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I mean, you're not even drunk. I mean, at least you were drunk. You get emotional,
But it was there was that weird moment in time when the sort of the first, well, let's not get too nerdy about this, but there was a wave of emo that got really performative. Do you know what I mean? Where it was like the kind of post Sunny Day thing, where suddenly it was like, it was cool to wear, to weep into your JanSport straps. You know what I mean? It's a weird time.
We used to have a name for those bands when we were touring. It was like, Texas is the reason for another, four walls falling into another. Like, just like in every single town, there was a band that opened when I was in Aerotype. There was a band that opened that sounded just like fucking Texas the Reason, or just like, especially Sunny Day Real Estate. But you know, Texas had a little bit of that too. But it was like fucking. I mean, it was carbon copy. And then the singer could never sing. The songs would meander. You know, like girls in big sweaters who wouldn't even talk to me, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like it was a fucking weird time when those guys were around. And yeah, they were definitely one of the better of those bands. I mean, they were broken up by the 97 or so, right? Like maybe
something like that.
Even earlier than that.
Which is years before I came across it.
Yeah, I mean, and then they kind of became the cool kids somehow. So, you know, it's like we had the cool kid emo scene, which was like Texas the Reason's cool kids, you know, those cool kids, whatever. And then came the Long Island scene.
Well, there's a big thing over here. The number of people who'd ever heard the word emo in this country could have been numbered in probably less than 100 for a long, long time. And then suddenly there was this thing with My Chemical Romance was the breakthrough band, and The Enemy like ran a feature on
it was a cover
an emo kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was for somebody who'd been listening to like, you know, Sunny Day, Braid, all the DC stuff, Mineral, obviously, Chrissy Front Drive, all that kind of shit. I've been listening to that shit for fucking years. And even stuff like Saisha, you know, the more screamo end of it, when people didn't really differentiate between emo and screamo, it was the same shit. It was like, there was a lot of emo that I listened to prior to that was heavier than a lot of the hardcore that I was into. You know, it was really, some of it was really aggressive music. It just wasn't tough guy, you know what I mean? It was sort of emotionally raw. And I loved, and indeed still love a lot of that music. And then suddenly there's fucking The Enemy doing this feature. And it was the most irritating thing for me, because all of a sudden it became teen goth. It became new goth.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if this article came out before that, but so when 100 Reasons and I believe, I don't know if Rival Schools was on there, but I remember 100 Reasons, around the time when Instruction was touring with 100 Reasons and Hells for Heroes and all those bands, Funeral for a Friend, The Enemy did a cover article on emo, and I think Colin Duran from 100 Reasons was the, you know, had the big afro, not unlike you, not unlike fucking... It's a guy from At the Drive-In.
Oh, we looked quite a lot alike back then.
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, and kind of sounded alike too. But yeah, it was funny. Like, I think At the Drive-In was kind of the turning point for a lot of that scene, because they got so big in England, and then all these bands started happening, and like we were included in that scene, which I was very thankful for, because it's like it was amazing how quickly it blew up. And like I remember when Aerotype did our last tour. With 100 Reasons and Hells for Heroes. God, I played with them so many fucking times. And on that tour, the 100 Reasons record, they kept putting out singles. So I'll Find You and like all that shit. And every venue they had to up, because it was selling out so fast. And it was crazy. And then a year later, we came back and played with Hells for Heroes, and it was the same fucking thing. And then 4 months later, we toured with Biffy Clyro on the Vertigo Bliss tour. And I would say that those guys win in the end, shall we say, because we played to probably 50 people a night until we got to London. And then that show was good, but they were, I'm trying to get them on this because the story of that tour is fucking insane. But like,
I'll drop Simon a line. I'll bug him.
Yeah, bug him, please.
I do well.
He's busy. He's busy singing with Dave Grohl, dude. Come on.
Yeah, you know, I know. But like, he's a. You know what? Of all of the people I've crossed paths over the years in the industry, Simon is one of the ones who's I will sort of reputationally defend harder than most. Do you know what I mean? That guy's a fucking dude. And indeed, you know, they are basically the biggest rock band in the UK, if not Europe. Or it's certainly one of, you know, I know they do less well in the States, but they're fucking enormous over here, and deservedly so. And like through it all, he's a man who has never, ever, ever assumed any airs and graces. Do you know what I mean? He's just fucking the same dude I met in 2000.
All those guys were so fucking laser focused on the music, and that was what fascinated me about them. Like they used to do this thing, and I hope I can get into this with him. but where they would jam for 2 hours before sound check. And, you know, we'd be at we'd be at the Zodiac in Oxford in the basement, and they'd be fucking jamming. And like, and at first, the first couple of shows, we were like, this is so fucking annoying. Like, stop fucking making noise. And then one day I was like, I like sat there and I watched them do like a jam, and I was like, this is the best fucking thing oh my God. Like, these guys are incredible. And this is before Vertigo Bliss even came out. They were, this is just before it. And so they were doing a lot of Black and Sky shit. But
But so check it. So after Million Dead broke up and I started doing solo stuff, which was in sort of late 2005, in early 2007, I did a solo tour opening for Biffy. And it was so cool because basically things were kind of ticking along. And then I got a call from the Biffy guys just kind of going, hey man, like, you're still doing stuff after Million Dead? That's cool. Because Million Dead and Biffy played together all the time. And they were like, you know, it wasn't said as patronizingly as it sounds, but they were just like, do you need a hand? Would it help to tour with us, kind of thing? And I was like, yes, it would. And like, that was such a consolidation tour for me because that, you know, Million Dead's crowd and Biffy's crowd were pretty similar at a certain point in time. And it was the tour when everybody finally got the news about what I was now doing who had been into Million Dead, because a lot of people have been into Million Dead and they missed the memo about me doing solo stuff because it was so different. And one of the things I remember is being on stage on that tour night after night, and I always have this bit where I'd be like, I used to be a band called Million Dead, and everyone go, Ray, and I go, and then we broke up, and everyone go, boo, and then I play a song. And one night I was doing this, and I was like, then we broke up, and this guy in the front row went, what? And I was like, dude, it happened like fucking, it happened 2 years ago. What the fuck? I
was gonna say, what era Biffy is it? Is it like
this was on the Puzzle record.
Puzzle. Oh, okay, so they had blown up at that point.
It was the Puzzle release tour, and it was such a cool tour for me. And like, you know, I did so well out of it, and they're just wonderful people.
Yeah, no, I was at the release show at Brixton Academy, and we had gone. Adam and I from Instruction and Airtype flew over early to go see it for a tour. I think we were going out. I forget who we were going out with. Anyway, yeah, it was awesome, man. I was like, holy shit, like, what the fuck? Like, it was, yeah. And they like totally put us on the guest list. Fucking, oh no, I was on a Gay for Johnny Depp tour. And they put us on the guest list. And Neil, fuck, I love Neil. You know Neil? He was their merch guy when we toured with him. They're like, that guy fucking solid as shit, man. I fucking love him.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This is the smallest world thing ever. Neil, just briefly. Oh, hello.
I'm here.
Oh, hello. It's gone weird. Just very briefly, Neil, who's from Northern Scotland, started dating a girl who lives next door to my mum in a village in Hampshire. Weirdest shit ever. Anyway, continue.
Super weird. No, we got a couple minutes left. I just wanted to, you know, so what's your, I mean, I don't know. We've been having such a good time talking. I don't want to talk about what's going on outside. It's so fucking, no, I know. It sucks. It's like, this has got to be, I mean, obviously this is your livelihood, and this has got to be something else to sort of look forward. I mean, I know you're probably in a better position than a lot of other people as far as being able to wait to play in front of people. And you could also play to nobody and just live stream forever and everybody would probably love it. But
yeah, well, I've been doing a lot of that. You know, I've been doing these fundraiser live streams for independent venues around the UK. I've been doing one a week, and I've done 5 so far. I've got like another 5 or more planned, because the thing is, I think we'll come out of this strict lockdown way before you're allowed to do gigs again. So I'm going to keep it going. I mean, there's 600 independent venues in the UK that need help, so I'm not going to run out of venues anytime soon, but I might run out of my own songs, for fuck's sake. But yeah, so I start doing like alphabetically themed sets or some shit. I don't know. But like, so I'm keeping busy with that. The other main thing that I'm doing is that I'm demoing and writing and demoing a new record at the moment for myself. I'm also, we're kind of vaguely kicking around riffs for a new Mongol Horde record, which a lot of people ask about a lot of the time. Mongol Horde's the laziest band in the history of music. Like, honestly, we've been a band for 7 years and we've done 2.5 tours. Like, it's just like, we're awful.
I mean, if you don't have to, I mean, you're busy with your shit. I'm sure everybody else.
No, I know. But basically, we've been promising another record. Incidentally, I really, really, really want to call the next Mongol Horde album Mongol Horde 2 Mongol Hoarder. But I'm not sure if I'm not sure whether the rest of the band are into it. But I think it'll be pretty funny.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you know, you just tell them, "Fuck you guys, I quit."
Yeah. Well, the other suggestion was to call it Schmongol Horde, which I quite liked. So the front cover would just say Mongol Horde, Schmongol Horde.
The fucking Harry Nilsson fucking reference. I like it, man.
Right, exactly.
Nielsen,
Yeah,
Schmielsen,
yeah. But
Schmoozle.
so yeah, working on new stuff as best we can, and then I had a new live album came out yesterday, so we should tell
Oh,
everybody about
congratulations!
that.
Yes, do it.
Yeah,
Talk about
look
it.
at us. I mean, we're professionals, man.
Yes.
Yeah, it's I did a very different set last year for one tour where it was all seated and it was very much a kind of VH1 storyteller type vibe, like stripped back versions of the songs, explanations. There was a narrative arc to the show as a whole, all this kind of thing. And it was really different. And I don't know if we'll ever do it again. So we captured it and we put it out yesterday so people can check it out.
Well, congratulations, and
Thank you.
hope this is pretty good timing to get people's attention. I mean, it's like it's such a weird feeling. Like I'm having trouble writing just because I feel like so much anxiety about what's going on. I mean, I have
Sure.
2 bars. I have 2 bars that are essentially forced to be closed, and it's like fucking crazy. This is my other bar, by the way. I've never been here, but it's just everything's so unsure, and it's such an interesting. It's really hard to even talk about the future because I don't even know what's going to happen next week. Like they said, the death toll is down in England. Like I hate reading the news at this point, but I feel guilty not doing it.
I'm trying my best to not read the news, man. What I do every morning, I like scan the headlines if there's anything like I need to know, and then beyond that, like I just don't think it's good for me to be as much of a news junkie as I usually am, because what the fuck, man? Like there's nothing going on.
Yeah, give me something good,
Yeah.
Not to quote Ryan Adams. Is it too soon? Sorry.
Oh, wow.
Hashtag too soon.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's I don't know. I'm trying to every hour I have a different emotion about it, but it's gonna be what it is. As stupid as that sounds, it's like
Yeah.
I got to promote the Kickstarter for St. Vitus, which has done really well, and I want to thank everybody out there in Instagram land.
And incidentally, for anybody who's watching this who's not aware, St. Vitus is the best bar in New York City, ladies and gentlemen. I fucking love it. It's such a cool spot, and everybody should support the Kickstarter because they fucking rule.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate your support throughout the years. Believe me, it's fucking awesome. Well, we got any questions out there in Instagram land for Frank before we wrap it up? We got
somebody's literally just asked if I'm going to get a face tattoo during.
I think that's a quality idea.
You know what? My wife just shouted no down the stairs.
Well, tattoos are illegal right now anyway, so
Yeah, pretty much. I'm seriously. You know what? This is how like demented into lockdown we are. Today, I've been seriously considering dyeing my hair, which is not a thing that I've done since I was like a teenage punk, when I used to like bleach half my head. You know what I mean?
Do it up, man.
I might revive that shit. I might give it another go.
I'm thinking of shaving my head, just like go full on boot boy.
I'll tell you what. If you shave your head, I will dye half of my head white.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, it's hard to come back from mine. You could just shave your head.
You just fucking grow it again, dickhead.
How many years it took to grow this beautiful locks, man?
Oh, this beautiful mane. All right, Lion.
Fuck off, dude. Anyway, any more questions? No face tattoo. Just who do we got online with us here? I'm trying to do my best Chris Enriquez imitation here. You guys suck at questions, man. You guys suck. Wow.
Dude, I'll tell you what, man. It's approaching my bedtime, so I'm gonna love you and leave you.
Okay, it's fine.
It's been an absolute joy, and I miss you. I really do.
Yes. Love you, buddy. Take care, man.
Here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. Once all this lockdown shit is over, or at least there is some semblance of return to normality, and obviously it's not going to be like switching a light bulb and all the rest of it. There's going to be some sort of weird transitional phase. Nobody knows how it's going to be. But like, I've always been into hugs, but I'm going to be fucking into hugs.
Oh my God,
this,
dude.
man. I'm going to fucking...
I'm a super.
Yeah.
I'm a super hugger. And it's so now I'm like walking around going like this.
Dude, in which case I'm sure you know that the rule for a good hug is hips touching.
Oh, all right. Well,
dude, seriously, think about it. You're going to fucking hug me and just touch shoulders? Go fuck yourself. That's not a hug. I'm not interested. I don't want your fucking shitty, half-hearted, fuck off. I want, touching hips or nothing. Touch hips or go home.
That's it. I do. Hashtag touch hips. Hashtag touch hips or go home. Let's do it. Let's start it. You start right here on Age of Quarantine. All right. Love you, buddy. Take care, man.
What a pleasure, man. My friend. See you later. Bye.
So thank you for tuning in, and every night 8 o'clock on the St. Vitus Instagram Live, we have usually Chris Enriquez interviewing folks. I don't have the lineup in front of me because I'm an idiot and didn't write it down. But I'm sure we got somebody awesome tomorrow. Dave Castillo does one a week. I usually do, when I'm doing Wednesday, I'm doing Alex Skolnick from Testament. So that should be a really good one since I've been a fan of Testament's. First time I saw them was on the New World Order tour in like 1988 or something. So we should have a good conversation, and he's a local Park Slope guy. And thank you so much for tuning in. We love you very much. Stay safe. Peace.